Welcome to Wise Out Paint Party. Today, we're not in studio, we're in our bedroom in my house. So the reason why I'm in here is I wanted to show this really amazing way to do a feature wall on any wall within your house. It's something, if you've been following along on my page, I tested it out a couple months ago. Everybody seemed to really love it. I was testing it for a reason, because I have plans to go ahead and do it on this wall and maybe another wall within the house. It's amazing. It's how you use our 1 hour ceramic, which you've been following along on Refurbished Gentleman. You'll see I did all my walls in our 1 hour ceramic jet black. But if you want to do an amazing feature wall with our cutting edge stencils that we have now, you can use our 1 hour enamel and add a little bit of sheen and change the game, man. It's amazing. Like I said, I've tested it a few times, looked awesome on the samples, and I've already started working on it on the room. Cool, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk through all the steps. I'm gonna show you what you need, how to do it, how easy it really is, and how amazing it will be when it's done. So if this is something you're looking forward to, stay tuned today on Wise Out Paint Party. All right, so what do you need to go ahead and transform a whole wall or a whole room, depending on how you want to do it? I'm doing just a feature wall. The entire room has been painted in our 1 hour ceramic jet black. And I knew this one wall just had nothing on it, would be the perfect feature wall. So I'm gonna do the stencil, add some picture frames and all kind of fun stuff. But what do you need? So first and foremost, you need to paint your wall in a matte finish using our 1 hour ceramic. Best way to go. Absolutely stunning color, matte, flat, beautiful finish, and it's scrubbable. So if you get marks on it or spill anything on it, you can scrub it. It's absolutely just, it's unlike anything I've ever used before. So if you've used a flat luxury interior paint before, you've not used a kind like this. So I definitely recommend giving it a try. But to do this technique, you're gonna need a flat wall paint, because we're gonna change up the sheen with the stencil, and that's what's gonna bring out the stencil and allow that reflectivity as light hits it and allow the stencil to show out, right? So there's two ways you can do this, and I decided to go with one of those two ways, in which it's gonna be how I use the actual color that I have on the wall in 1 hour ceramic in our 1 hour enamel. That's the first way you can do it. So what I have here is I have our 1 hour enamel in jet black. This is a satin finish, so of course it's gonna have some sheen and it's gonna have that reflectivity as light hits it, depending on where and how you're looking at it. It's really cool stuff. So you get something that has a sheen that's higher than matte or flat, and that's what you'll get. So for this, I'm gonna use, again, the 1 hour enamel in that same color. Now, the other option is to use our 1 hour enamel clear coat, and you could use the semi-gloss or the satin, and you could get the same kind of effect. So if you wanted the same, what I found from testing is the satin 1 hour enamel clear coat looks almost identical doing it with the same method as you would using the same color that is on the wall. So if you have a paint that has the same color, excuse me, in 1 hour enamel, then you can go ahead and use that. If you have a color, a wall paint color that you don't have in 1 hour enamel, you can either special order it or use our 1 hour enamel clear coat in satin. It almost identical. I did a few sample boards. There's really just, it's nominal the way it looks between the paint and the clear coat in satin. So one of those two ways, which is the same, and obviously semi-gloss will be have a little bit more sheen to it. So you need the color of the paint that you did on the wall, if you have it, or the 1 hour enamel clear coat. Those are two ways. Both ways turn out amazing. Both ways are just as easy as I'm gonna show you. Then you're gonna need one of our cutting edge stencils. So I'm using Radiant Scallop, and as you can probably see behind me, it's absolutely stunning. We're doing a mid-century modern style look to the room, and I really felt like that stencil just worked perfectly with the theming that we're doing in here. So that's what I have it here. You're gonna need dense foam rollers. I actually got the kit. So on our website, you can get Cutting Edge Stencils and or through your retailers. And additionally to that, we have a stenciling kit. It will come with 3 components that so far have been very important. I have not needed this guy other than my samples. So I'll show you how that's going. This wall has been pretty straightforward, so there's not a whole lot of detailed areas I needed that for, but dense foam roller, I have it wrapped up because I've been using it. And then one of the most amazing little things that I didn't realize I love until I saw it and used it is it comes with this level. Now, as I started it from left to right, you have to ensure, especially if you have something that shapes where you want it to look the same going all the way down, you want to make sure it's level, right? So they created this little clip-on thing that comes in the kit. So in the kit, you'll get the roller, the brush, and this level. You just clip it to the bottom. It's amazing. And just leave it on the whole time. And every time you're going to put it on there, you just make sure you're level. In addition to that, the way Cutting Edge stencils are made is they have the little dots. See how these dots are on the outside? It's so you can line up the next stencil and the next stencil and the next stencil. It's amazing. So definitely, if you haven't already watched, I'll tag it up here. Just kind of like a general how to use the Cutting Edge Stencils video. And I walk through a little bit more of that. But that's one of the other parts, the level that comes with the kit. And definitely recommend getting the kit for sure. If not for just the level, the roller is important too. And then I grabbed some high density foam rollers just from Home Depot. So I had some extras. And then you're gonna need tape because you wanna tape off your floorboards. So when you get down to the bottom, you can roll it right out. You're gonna need blue shop towels. And what I use, which I've done a lot of sampling with this to test this theory and play around, is I use parchment paper to squirt the paint onto, roll my brush into, and then offload onto a blue shop towel. Now again, I'll put it in the description down below the video for more details about that and the how-to video that I did. It'll explain a little bit more of that, but you'll need the parchment paper if you're doing it this way. You can use a paper plate, you can use any other foam plates that you might have from like dollar store or something like that. I just feel like parchment paper works great. It doesn't bleed through, nothing goes through, and it's really easy just to crumble up, throw away. Cheap, easy. Now this has been invaluable. So this is just a large syringe. And the reason why I'm doing this, so if you've ever used One Hour Enamel, it dries really fast. So if I was to squirt a big pool of One Hour Enamel here and then go through just a little bit of it and then roll off, by the time I got done with a couple things, part of that pool would be starting to dry on me and it'd get chunky and all that kind of stuff. So I want just enough for that one roll that I'm about to do. And that's how I've been doing it because it dries so fast and it's worked really, really well. So I made my own little tinfoil cap for that, my own little tinfoil cover for this. So every time I'm not using it, I cover everything up because 1 hour enamel dries really fast. So I'm gonna walk through doing one of these. I'm actually gonna put it up, go through all the steps, but these are the pieces of what I've found so far with actually doing it on a wall is a little different than doing samples that were invaluable. So the syringe, obviously the foam roller, some wax paper, blue shop towel, but I'll have a list of all the things that I use for this method listed in the description down below. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna put up the stencil, and we already have it going, so I'm just gonna piece it in there. I'm gonna show you how it, excuse me, how it lines up, and then I'm actually just gonna roll it on and show you just how beautiful it is. I'll try to get some up close shots if I can so you can actually see, you know, the reflectivity and all that stuff, and then of course, how you do the top. So one of the things I wanna mention that comes with, where is that here? Comes with this kit, which is absolutely amazing, is it looks very unfinished at the top. And the reason for that is because they have this really cool little puzzle piece that you can kind of just walk up here and stick, and it fills in the space. You just line up the holes and it fills it in so it looks like a professionally done finished room. There's no space at the top, and of course there won't be any space at the bottom because you're going to go all the way down through to the bottom. So the top of the stencil hits on the top of your ceiling and leaves that space just for this little puzzle piece. Really, I mean, just like very well thought out by Cutting Edge Stencils to have this. It just makes it, again, look way more professional to have it go all the way up to the top of the ceiling. So I haven't done this yet, but I'll add this into the video when I'm all done and I go across the top and knock out this little guy. So next up, we're gonna actually put it on the wall and get to rolling. Okay, so what I decided to do for this first one is keep you zoomed out so you can see all of what I have going on. So I have a table set up. I have just an old bath towel on the table, and I have the stencil already all taped up. So I'm gonna take it, go over here, do its thing, and then put it on the towel. The reason for that is because if there's any paint underneath the stencil, you kind of rub it across the towel to ensure there's nothing that's still lingering there, and it'll dry fast, especially if you wipe it clean real good. So I just stick it over here, give it a little rub. By the time I go back to the next one after about 5 minutes of letting it dry, I don't have to worry about any transfer of any wet paint. So I just put a little towel, and that's worked amazingly well. I got a fan here to help dry the stencil. So that way in between that 5-minute period, this is drying, and then I have a fan over here that's helping dry this to get this dry quicker as well. Because you don't want to have to wait for long extended periods of time. You don't want the stencil to still be wet. You don't want the wall to still be wet when you go on to the next step. And I decided not to do any diagonal kind of things and try to, only touch the one part that's still wet. There's different methods that you can do, but I'm just going piece by piece by piece because our 1 hour enamel dries so fast, it makes it really easy to do that. So I'm gonna have this zoomed out for now. So what I'm gonna do, I take it off of my towel that I had it laid on, take it over to the wall, and again, we have these little like puzzle piece spots that are connecting the first stencil to the next stencil. So all I have to do is take and line these up. And then what you want to do is look down at your level that you have attached to the bottom. And this could be a little tricky depending on what kind of light you have in the room and what colors you're using, obviously, too, will make a big difference. But I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna look at my level, everything looks great. So I'm just gonna take my tape and stick it on there really good. Push that all the way around. Make sure I got it good and flat. And we're pushing the tape on, holding everything in place. The level says we're good and level, so we know it's gonna be straight, not only from the level, but from our connection points from what we've previously done. So not only do we know it's level, but it's actually lining up perfectly with what we had before, which is just another one of those neat little ingenious things from Cutting Edge Stencils, but they've been doing it a while. All right, rub our tape on, make sure everything's on there real good. And that's all there's to it. We got a level spot down here. Everything's taped up really good. I might have overkill a little bit with the amount of tape that I put on there, but I just wanted to make sure it didn't fall off. And the other reason for that is I did not use adhesive. So you can use adhesive on the back if you're worried about bleed, but before I get to that, bleeding is gonna happen anytime you're using a stencil. The big thing, and I have OCD and I nitpick everything I do, is just understand that that's going to happen. To what level will depend on your technique, and I'll walk through that a little bit too. It just, it's going to happen. So if you have a bad one, like I had 2 dots out of all of this that connected together, I'm just gonna touch up with some 1 hour ceramic. Other than that, it's come out amazing. You just have to know that going in, it's no way it's gonna be perfect. And oh, by the way, the pressure of the foam roller pushes the stencil up against the wall, and you really don't have any issues with it dripping and bleeding if you do the technique right. And again, I only had 1 dot. I think it was one of these guys down here that are close together that I might have pressed a little too hard and had a little bit too much paint right initially that touched together. Other than that, I mean, you see it's turned out absolutely stunning so far. So I do not have any adhesive on the back of this. All right, so we're gonna get into painting. So again, I have my dense foam roller wrapped up because in between, you don't want this guy to get all dry on. And then we're gonna have our syringe that's full of paint. Now, take my little makeshift cap off, and what I'm gonna do is squirt just a little line of paint onto here. Now I'm gonna do this far away, and then I'm gonna do another one up close and kind of show you exactly what I'm doing as I go through this stencil here. So I'm gonna just squirt a little line on here, and then I'm gonna take my roller and I'm gonna roll it through that little line of paint, pulling it out, pulling it in, however you wanna do it. Flip it over. We're gonna go back this way with it, flip it over. And the long and the short of this is you want a nice even, see there's nothing dripping off of this. It's in the foam roller, it's absorbed into it, but it's not dripping all over the place, and you want it even all around, okay? I'm gonna offload two rolls at the most with 1 Hour Enamel onto your blue shop towel, and then take it straight to your stencil. So what I've been doing with this Radiant Scallop is I've been starting with the big circles and working up to the smaller ones. So I just kind of go like this, and this is all there's to it. It's absolutely awesome. I mean, amazing. Now, because I didn't have paint dripping all over the place, I don't have to worry about this bleeding and spilling all over the place. And then as the paint comes off, I can push a little harder. So I start with the bigger dots, and then as I get up to the smaller dots, as it would be trying to stick a sponge into that small hole, you gotta push a little harder. So I wait until there's less paint before I start pushing too hard. That way I don't have to worry about any kind of bleed happening. So that's what normally happens. If you're rolling this on and you have too much paint on your roller, you didn't offload, or it's dripping, that's how you're gonna have those bleeds and those kinds of things with this kind of stencil, because this stencil is thin, light, and pushes flat up against the wall or piece of furniture, whatever you're using it on, really well using a flat dense foam roller. And I'm using a 4-inch. I was thinking about getting a 6-inch, but I like the control that I have with a 4-inch. It stays flat. I don't get any bowing or bending as you might get with a roller that's a little bit longer. So I stuck with a 4-inch, and I'm just doing this in little parts. So I did this top scallop like this. And then as you can feel it start to dry up, just kind of go in all the different kind of directions, and make sure you get all the little dots. So I just keep going. And again, as you lose paint, you can push a little harder because it is a foam roller. It's like a sponge. It has paint in there. Even though it might not be like where I can roll it, get it all over my hand, there's still some in there. So you just kind of press it down into the little dots on this thing specifically. And this is a tricky one because my wall is textured and it's little dots and I'm doing it with a foam roller, but it still it's really easy. I mean, I can't believe how easy this has been. It just takes a little bit of time because you need to just take your time and do the steps correctly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in and I'm gonna talk through just this part to show you the actual steps I'm taking a little bit better, just so you know this technique part is the most important part. How much paint you get on, how much you offload, and then taking it to your stencil to ensure that you do not have a bunch of bleed and drips and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna bring it in a little closer and walk through that real quick. All right, so here we are a little bit closer just so you can see a better view of what's going on here. So I have my blue shop towel that I offload onto. I have my parchment paper that I'm actually just squirting the paint onto, and it's not gonna bleed through with parchment paper. It's cheap, it's easy to throw away when you're done, so it's just an easy way to do it. So I have my syringe, and what I'm doing is just to squirt enough for one roll, so one little section. So I'm just gonna do like a little row of paint, something like that. So not a lot, enough, just like I said, to do one roll. And I've been doing a very controlled way, like one roll at a time, because 1 Hour Enamel dries so fast. So I'm rolling it through, flipping my roller over, rolling it through, and then going the other way, rolling it through, and then flipping it over and rolling it through. Again, to get the most even amount of paint all over the foam roller as possible. Then I offload 2 rolls, no more than that, because you don't want to take any more off, but you want to make sure there's no drips anywhere. And then you take it to the wall. So I'm going to adjust my camera real quick, and then I'm going to do some more rolling for you. All right, so a little bit closer up, you can see I'm starting with the dots, and I'm going to just kind of roll my way up into the smaller dots. And what I've been doing is the top, the sides, middle, and then the bottom, all in that kind of order, because I felt like the big dots, when the roller is the most wet, has allowed for it to fill in really well, and then the smaller dots have needed a little bit more pushing to get down in there because they're just so small, using a sponge basically. So I don't want to have a lot of paint on there, so I start down and then work my way up into those dots. So I'm just rolling this on. And then you can go in all different kind of directions, which is preferable if you're trying to ensure you fill the entire stencil space that you're filling. So these are creating positive space on the wall. So you want to make sure it all gets filled in really well with all these little dots here. So keep going just like this, all different kind of directions. And like I said, as the paint comes off, you can push it a little bit harder to get down into all the spots. And what's cool is you'll know you're getting it because it'll have that wet look to it. So you'll know you're filling in the circle just how you need it to. But definitely go in different directions, because if you don't, you might miss a corner or a spot or whatever. And after all the testing I've done with these cutting edge stencils, because it's flat, pushing it down, you can go really in any kind of direction you want without having to worry about, it adjusting or moving, especially if you have it really well taped. So I'm going to push you back, and then I'm going to finish this up real quick. We're going to pull it off and show you the reveal, and that'll be it for this. And then I'm going to do the top row, and then I'll have some sped up versions just to kind of show you how it all got done. Yeah. So we're going to zoom you out and finish this guy up. I'll talk a little bit as I'm going of what I'm doing, but that's all there's to it. I mean, it's really easy, really fun. It's going to be an amazing feature wall, especially in here because I have a huge sliding glass door that's pushing light right against this feature wall. And then this one light that's coming this way. So the different angles in which you look at it, the different ways you see it is gonna really bring out this really cool stencil. So anyways, I'm gonna push you back, show you the rest. And then the next thing you'll be able to see is when I do the tops, I'll show you exactly how that works. All right, back to my syringe. Squirt a little row, roll my roller through it. Go this way, flip, and then go back this way, roll it through, flip, roll it through, and offload 2 rolls. That's it, 2 rolls. And we're starting with, for the radiant scallop, we're starting with the big circles and working our way up into the smaller circles. And like I said, I just feel like that's been the best way to do it. And then once the paint starts to come off, you can just kind of roll it any old way you want. But when you initially get to the wall, you have the most amount of paint on your roller, and I think hitting the bigger circles right off the beginning has been the best way to do this particular stencil. This has been a lot of fun. I've been working on these samples for a couple months now, and this past weekend was our 21st anniversary, and I told my wife I wanted to do something really nice for her. We just moved into this house, and I've painted every wall in this house except for our bedroom and our bathroom. And I told her for anniversary, I wanted to redo the whole bedroom. So I painted all the walls. I've got new bedding, sconces on the wall, shelves on the wall. I'm gonna redo the furniture. And I talked her into letting me paint the walls jet black, which she loved, which was awesome. And I did not tell her that I was doing this. So we'll see if she loves it as much as I'm loving it so far, and how much trouble I'm in if she doesn't. But this is kind of her anniversary present this year. wanted to really do something nice for her. So I'm hoping she loves this wall too. All right, back to the syringe, a little roll through, flip, roll through, going the other way, flip, again to get the most even amount of paint throughout the roll as possible. Roll off 2 rolls and then back. So for the bottom 2, I start with the bottom, work my way up, just like I said about the other ones, bottom, work my way up, flaring up to the smaller circles. And then once the paint starts to come off, I just roll it everywhere. And you see me, I'm doing this number. That helps a little, especially when you get to the bottom where there's a space for you to do that, just to help keep it flattened out. Even though the foam roller does push it flat, just having that one little finger on there helps just kind of keep it in place. And again, I did not use any adhesive. You can use adhesive. I just chose not to. The samples I didn't use adhesive, and this whole flat foam roller pushing it down worked great. So I decided not to even bother with it once I got to the wall. And I obviously did a little bit before I started this video series for you guys, and it worked great. So I didn't see a reason to need to start to add adhesive to it when it was flattening out, it was not bleeding. Again, out of all of these, I had 2 dots that are touching out of all of this that I have. And it was mostly, well, it was my fault. I had too much paint, pressed too hard, and had these 2 guys connect just from that. So it's all technique driven. You do it right, you get the right results. So the biggest thing is just not having too much paint. And then once you get to you're done, right? I'm done with this. I want to make sure that these puzzle piece dots that will connect the next row are fully filled in like perfect circles. So I always go back at the very, very end and just kind of roll those out one last time, just to ensure that when I go to puzzle piece connect this thing together, that it's not so faint that I can't find it or I can't get it connected correctly or anything like that. So I'm gonna go one last pass over everything with what little bit of paint I got left on here. And then I'm gonna do the reveal, which is always the fun part. Watch some of the Cutting Edge Stencils videos and him pulling that stencil off. The reveal part is always so much fun to see how it turned out. And this is even, I mean, next level with this whole doing the 2 different Sheens finish. Okay, so now I'm done. I'm gonna stick this in my little tinfoil cocoon like this. I'm done with my syringe for right now, so I put my little tinfoil hat on that guy. Again, because 1 hour enamel dries really fast, so you just want to take care of your stuff and then just keep going. And I've been doing the same method for the time that I've been working on this. Then what I've been doing is starting at the top, take my paint or my tape and peel that off and slowly peel all the way down. Ta-da! How awesome is that? Very cool, right? So then I'm gonna take my stencil and I'm gonna bring it over here to my towel. I'm gonna lay it down and just kind of give it a good little rub. I don't know if you can see me. Can you see me over there? No, let me move it down here. Okay, so I'm done. I bring this over here and I just give it a little rub like this. That way, if there's any transfer of paint underneath, that when I go to the wall again, it doesn't transfer, especially because we're talking about reflectivity. That'd be some touching up to do if it does transfer. So I just do like this, and then I take about a 5-minute break, and that's it. With the fans going, about a 5-minute break, and then you can get right on to the next one, and knowing that it's gonna overlap. And that's all it's gonna be to it. So next up is gonna be the top. I'll have some sped up versions of me finishing this guy off, and then I'll finish this up for you guys. All right, so now you can see that I've done, let's see, I think that's 4 rows so far, and we're on to doing the top trim. Now, this is one of the really cool parts about how Cutting Edge Stencils does their wall stencils, is it allows for the big stencil. So the big stencil actually hit the ceiling, and then had this space that didn't have a stencil attached to it because they have this puzzle piece that will fit right in here and go all the way to the top. So it's a very professional finish from the top to the bottom, and you fill in all this space without it having to have the stencil like bent and all this kind of weird thing. So when you start, you take the main stencil, stick it up against the top of the ceiling, and then just work your way down. And then you know that you have the fill in for that space right there. So that's what we're gonna work on. I just wanted to show you this because I think this might be a little bit confusing at first if you're brand new to stenciling walls. Like, okay, well, I stick this in. Well, how do I get it to fill? And how? It's really easy. There's nothing to it. The way they have their stencil set up. And then again, you have the little puzzle pieces off to the side to connect in to the next, to the next, to the next. So you can see that here. So that's basically what's gonna happen is that piece that we're gonna use, the smaller thin piece that's gonna fill in this space, we're gonna tape it on here just like we did before. We will connect it in with the little, you know, dots or puzzle piece I keep saying, because it just fits right in there and tells you exactly where this needs to go. So I'm gonna grab it, slap it up here and roll it out and peel it off and show you what that looks like. All right, so you can see I zoomed in a little bit so you can see a little bit better, but this is your little extension piece. And this, like I said, it's fill in this area and have it go all the way to ceiling. So it looks very professional and beautiful, and there's not that weird gap at the top of your ceiling. So all you have to do is you take and you find the holes on this side, you find the holes on that side. And because I have this weird ceiling, it's gonna be a little bit challenging, but we're gonna stick this guy over here, just like so. Got lots of blue tape everywhere. This side on like so. And it's still a little bit wet from the last time. And we're gonna rub our tape on, make sure it stays in place. And again, I'm not using adhesive. I have not used adhesive for any of this, and it's worked perfectly well, especially using that dense foam roller, and it flattens out really well. So for this, I'm actually gonna use two tools that came with the kit, the dense foam roller and then the stippling brush, because you wanna be careful rolling across and near your ceiling because you might roll paint into it. So I just take the brush and I stipple into that. So we're gonna actually walk through that real quick. And you already know how I get the paint on, and the stippling brush will be a lot of the same. Just dip it in a little bit of brush, offload a little bit, and then come do it. And with this, it should just be one load of the roller, one load of the brush, and you're done because it's a smaller piece. But I'm actually gonna show you doing it. All right, so we got the roller. And just so you guys know, I did most of this yesterday, starting a new day today. And all I did was I wrapped this in aluminum foil overnight, and it worked just fine with the 1 hour enamel, just in case you're wondering. So you don't have to waste another whole roller if you're gonna continue a project. I mean, I wouldn't leave it in there permanently. Well, maybe you could. I guess in a Ziploc bag you could. You know you're gonna be using a specific color rolling a lot, but I'm all about not wasting. So for this one, I just wrapped it in aluminum foil, and it was still wet and able to be used today. So we're doing the same thing we did yesterday, just rolling it in, getting all the holes filled real well, and just being careful at the top of your ceiling, because I actually did touch part of the ceiling down that way a little bit. So it is definitely something to stipple with a brush to have a more controlled environment of application, so you're not getting it on your ceiling. So that's all I'm gonna do. Just roll it on, it fills in all these holes, it takes it all the way to the ceiling, and continues this pattern from all the way down at the baseboard, all the way down to the line of your ceiling. It's awesome. Definitely looks a lot better, because yesterday I didn't have any of these filled in. And today you can definitely see how much nicer it looks having it filled all the way to the top. Now, you could do a row starting at the main stencil, go all the way down and then do this and then go to your next row. Or, I mean, you could just wait till the end and do all the top. That's basically what I did. I did 4 rows and then did, or was it 3 rows? I think 3 rows and then did 3 of the top today. I don't really see a reason why you would need to do it 1 row at a time, because it's not big enough where it might get tilted or shifted or anything like that, especially with the guide dots. So I mean, you really could wait just till the end and then do all of your tops when you're done with your main part of your project. So now I don't need to go grab the brush. All right, and then just again, what comes with the package along with the level and the roller is stippling brush. This is another application method for the stencils, stippling, and you want to go straight up and down, pouncing down on it, stippling down on it, whatever you want to call it, to ensure you're not pushing in and getting like underneath your stencil. And when you're doing this, you're pushing the stencil down if you're going straight up and down on it. So it kind of holds it in place. A little bit more paint here. And then just go across the top, these little spacers, because I mean, it really is legit. It's half circles and everything, because it makes it look like a nice clean line right across the top. So this is all you're gonna do. Just stipple it, like I said, just make sure you're going up and down and not pushing and dragging it in there too much anyway. All right, one little dot I see over here. I want to make sure I get, because this is the side that lines up. You want to make sure these dots, well, these two anyway, the 2 connection dots are good and filled in. So that's looking good. So we're going to peel this thing off and then we will be done. From the top all the way down to the bottom, we have stenciled our wall. Ooh, I hate this popcorn sea leg. Come on. Oh, there we go. Ta-da. Very cool, right? And that is all there is to it to apply the top trim. And there you have it, a fun and easy way to create a feature wall anywhere in your home using our 1 hour enamel and our 1 hour ceramic. So I got 1 hour ceramic as our base and 1 hour enamel as our stencil. And with that contrast of the sheens, it gives you this really beautiful finish. If you want to go ahead and try this, be sure to hit up your local Wise Owl retailer nearest you. I'll have a link down below to find the one that you have in your area. And as far as this is concerned, I still got some work to go, so be on the lookout for more details over on Refurbished Gentleman about the finished product. And I guess it's time for me to get back to work. I hope everybody enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that subscribe, like, share, notification bell, all the things for YouTube. Helps us grow the channel, helps us reach more people and teach how to do stuff with Wise Owl paints. Hope everybody has a blessed day, and as always, happy painting.